Elliot Grayson was no stranger to bad luck. At 32, he had spent most of his life fixing broken machines on the fringes of an interstellar trade hub called Orbital Outpost Delta *. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid enough to keep him fed and sheltered in a tiny apartment carved out of a repurposed cargo container. His dreams of adventure had long since faded, replaced by the monotony of repairing malfunctioning drones and recalibrating navigation systems for smugglers who barely tipped. But everything changed one quiet afternoon when a shimmering holographic message appeared in the middle of his cluttered workshop. Elliot nearly dropped the wrench he was holding as the glowing figure of a stern-looking alien lawyer materialized before him. "Mr. Elliot Grayson," the lawyer began, its voice deep and resonant, "you are hereby summoned to attend the reading of the will of Zynarak IV, late citizen of Tylora Prime." Elliot froze. Zynarak. His best friend, gone. He hadn't heard from the alien engineer in over a year, not since their last expedition into uncharted space ended abruptly after Zynarak vanished without a trace. Elliot had assumed his friend had simply moved on to bigger projects, leaving him behind like so many others had done before. The lawyer continued, oblivious to Elliot's shock. "As per the deceased's final wishes, you have been named executor of his estate. Please report to Xylora Prime within 7 solar cycles to settle matters." Before Elliot could respond, the hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving him staring at empty air. Executor. Estate. What did that even mean? Zynarak had always been tight-lipped about his finances, but Elliot never imagined his friend was wealthy enough to leave behind an estate worth mentioning. Curiosity and a bit of desperation drove Elliot to book passage on the next freighter headed to Xylora Prime. The journey took 3 days, during which Elliot couldn't shake the feeling that this whole thing was some kind of mistake. Still, the thought of escaping his dead-end life on Delta was too tempting to ignore. When he arrived, Xylora Prime greeted him with dazzling lights and towering crystalline spires that sparkled under twin suns. It was nothing like the grimy outpost he called home. The contrast made Elliot feel even smaller, more out of place than usual. A sleek hovercar whisked him away to a sprawling mansion nestled atop a hill overlooking the city. The estate belonged to Zynarak, or rather, it now belonged to whoever inherited it. Inside, the lawyer awaited him alongside another figure, a woman whose presence immediately stole Elliot's breath. She stood tall and elegant, her skin shimmering faintly like liquid silver, her eyes large and luminous. This had to be Lysira Vorth, Zynarak's widow. "Mr. Grayson," the lawyer said, gesturing toward her, "allow me to introduce Lady Lysira. Per Zynarak's instructions, you are to inherit half of his fortune and assume guardianship of Lady Lysira until further notice." Elliot blinked, certain he'd misheard. Guardianship of ***. Before he could protest, Lysira stepped forward, her gaze piercing yet strangely warm. "I understand this must come as a surprise," she said softly, her voice melodic. "But my husband trusted you deeply. I hope we can honor his wishes together." As Elliot stared at her, his mind raced with questions. Why would Zynarak leave such responsibility to him? And what exactly did guardianship entail? Whatever the answers were, one thing was clear. Elliot's dull, predictable life was about to take a turn he could never have anticipated. The next morning, Elliot woke early, unable to shake the nagging feeling that something was off about Lysira's story. He decided to explore the mansion on his own, hoping to uncover clues about Zynarak's disappearance. The grandeur of the estate still overwhelmed him, but he pushed past it, focusing instead on the details, like the faint hum of energy that seemed to pulse through the walls. As he wandered deeper into the house, Elliot noticed a door at the end of a dimly lit hallway. Unlike the others, this one was sealed with a biometric lock, a sleek panel glowing faintly blue. Intrigued, he approached it and pressed his hand against the surface experimentally. To his surprise, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a hidden vault filled with advanced technology and shelves stacked high with holographic data crystals. At the center of the room stood a pedestal displaying what looked like an incomplete map of the galaxy, dotted with glowing markers. Above it hovered a hologram of Zynerak himself, frozen mid-sentence. Elliot stepped closer, his heart pounding as he activated the recording. Zynerak's voice filled the chamber, calm but urgent. "If you're hearing this," the alien began, "then I failed. The celestial prism is real. It holds power beyond comprehension. But it comes at a cost. Be careful, my friend. Trust no one, not even those closest to you." Before the message could continue, footsteps echoed from behind him. Elliot spun around to find Lysira standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her tone sharp yet controlled. I was just looking around," Elliot stammered, guilt washing over him. "I didn't mean to pry. What is all this? And what's the celestial prism?" Lysira sighed, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. For a moment, she seemed conflicted, as if debating how much to reveal. Finally, she spoke. "The prism is an ancient artifact," she explained, her voice low. "It's said to hold the ability to reshape reality itself, to create or destroy entire worlds. Your friend dedicated years of his life searching for it." "And you knew about this?" Elliot asked, incredulous. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Her gaze hardened. "Because it's dangerous knowledge, Elliot. Dozens of factions across the galaxy would kill for the prism, including some who will stop at nothing to claim it. That's why Zynerak disappeared. He got too close." Elliot frowned, piecing things together. "So what happened to him? Did he find it?" Lysira hesitated before answering. "He believed he did. But the last transmission I received from him, it was fragmented. All I know is that he vanished near the Veil of Shadows." Her voice softened, tinged with sadness. "Please, Elliot, let this go. You don't understand the risks." But Elliot wasn't ready to let it drop. Something about her reluctance made him suspicious. If Zynerak had found the prism, why hadn't Lysira gone after him? Why did she seem so determined to keep Elliot away from the truth? "Why do you care so much?" he blurted out. "You barely knew me until yesterday. Why does it matter what I do?" Lysira stared at him, her luminous eyes piercing. Then, without warning, she reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. A strange warmth spread through him, and for a brief moment he felt a flicker of emotion, not his own, but hers. Grief, fear, and something else he couldn't quite place. "Because I'm trying to protect you," she whispered, "just like Zynerak tried to protect us both." Her words lingered in the air as they left the vault together. Though Elliot wanted to trust her, doubt gnawed at him. Whatever secrets Lysira was hiding, they were tied to Zynerak's fate, and possibly to the mysterious artifact he had sought. As they parted ways, Elliot resolved to dig deeper, no matter the consequences. For the first time since arriving at the mansion, he felt certain of one thing. He was being drawn into something far bigger than he'd ever imagined. Elliot sat awkwardly in the grand sitting room of Zynerak's mansion, feeling completely out of place. The opulent furnishings, polished crystal tables, chairs upholstered in shimmering fabric, and walls adorned with intricate alien art, made his worn jacket and scuffed boots feel even more out of place. Across from him, Lysira Vorth sat gracefully, her ethereal presence both captivating and intimidating. "I know this must be overwhelming," Lysira said, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, but carried an authority that made Elliot sit up straighter. "Zynerak spoke highly of you. He trusted you implicitly." Elliot cleared his throat, trying to gather his thoughts. "I don't understand why he'd leave something like this to me. We were friends, sure, but I'm just a mechanic, not exactly guardian material." Lysira tilted her head slightly, studying him with those large, luminous eyes. "Perhaps that is precisely why he chose you. You are unburdened by the politics and greed that plague so many others." Her words didn't reassure him. Instead, they raised more questions. Politics, greed. What had Zynerak gotten himself into? And what did any of it have to do with Eliot? Lysira seemed to sense his unease. Rising from her seat, she gestured for him to follow. Come, let me show you the estate. It may help you understand. As they walked through the mansion, Eliot couldn't help but marvel at its beauty. Every corridor gleamed with polished stone floors, and delicate light fixtures cast a warm glow over everything. But it wasn't just the luxury that caught his attention. It was the strange symbols etched into the walls. They glowed faintly, pulsing as if alive. What are these? Eliot asked, stopping to examine one set of markings closely. Lysira hesitated before answering. They are part of my people's history, symbols of knowledge and power. She paused, then added quietly, and perhaps danger. Danger. Eliot frowned. What kind of danger? She avoided his gaze, her expression unreadable. It's best not to dwell on such things right now. There is much you need to learn, but first, she led him to a massive library filled with holographic archives and ancient scrolls. Here you'll find records of Zynerak's work. If anyone can make sense of them, it's you. Eliot felt a pang of guilt. Zynerak had always been smarter than him, diving headfirst into projects Eliot barely understood. Now, faced with shelves upon shelves of technical data, he wondered how he could possibly live up to his friend's expectations. As they continued their tour, Eliot noticed subtle signs of sadness in Lysira. Though she carried herself with grace, there was a heaviness in her movements, a shadow behind her radiant exterior. At one point, she stopped abruptly, her hand resting on the edge of a balcony overlooking the sprawling gardens below. He loved this place, she murmured, almost to herself. But he loved discovery more. That's what drove him to the end. To the end? Eliot echoed, his curiosity flaring again. What happened to him, Lysira? Where did he go? For a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then she turned to him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. That is something we may never fully understand, but I believe the answers lie within these walls, and perhaps within you. Her words lingered in the air as they returned to the main hall. Despite her calm demeanor, Eliot sensed that Lysira was hiding something important. Whatever secrets she kept, they were tied to Zynerak's disappearance, and maybe even to the mysterious symbols scattered throughout the house. By the time night fell, Eliot found himself lying awake in a guest suite far too luxurious for his liking. His mind raced with questions about Zynerak, Lysira, and the strange legacy he'd inherited. One thing was certain, this wasn't going to be a simple inheritance. Something bigger was at play here, and Eliot couldn't shake the feeling that he was already in over his head. The journey through the stars was quiet at first, the hum of the starship's engines providing a soothing backdrop to their uneasy alliance. Eliot spent most of his time in the cockpit, staring out at the endless expanse of space, while Lysira retreated to the ship's small cabin. Neither spoke much, but the silence between them wasn't entirely uncomfortable. It was charged with unspoken questions and growing trust. One evening, as they passed through a nebula that painted the viewport in hues of violet and gold, Eliot decided to break the tension. He brought 2 steaming mugs of synthetic tea to the cockpit, offering one to Lysira. She accepted it hesitantly, her shimmering fingers brushing against his for a fleeting moment. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice tinged with gratitude. "I haven't had tea like this since before Zynerak." Eliot nodded, taking a sip from his mug. "You've been carrying a lot on your own, haven't you? All these secrets, all this responsibility. It must get heavy." Lysira looked away, gazing out at the swirling colors outside. For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then, almost reluctantly, she began to speak. "My people, the Luminary, are bound by duty above all else," she explained. "Marriages are arranged not for love but for alliances. When I married Zynerak, it wasn't because we cared for each other. It was because my family believed he could help secure the celestial prism for our kind. Elliot frowned. But did you believe in it? In what the prism could do? She hesitated before answering. At first, I thought it was just another myth, a story told to justify ambition. But after seeing how far people will go to claim it, I'm not so sure anymore. Her voice softened, tinged with regret. Zinnerak wanted to destroy it, you know. He feared its power would corrupt anyone who possessed it. And now, Elliot pressed gently. What do you want? Lysira met his gaze, her luminous eyes filled with conflict. I don't know anymore. My people expect me to bring them the prism. They see it as salvation, but every step closer feels like betrayal, not just of Zinnerak's memory, but of something deeper, something I can't explain. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Elliot set his mug down and leaned forward, his tone earnest. Listen, Lysira, you're not alone in this. Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out together. That's what friends do, right? A faint smile touched her lips, the first genuine one he'd seen from her. Friends, she repeated quietly, as if testing the word. It's strange. I've lived centuries, yet I've never truly understood what that means until now. Over the next few days, their bond deepened. Elliot introduced Lysira to Earth culture, playing music through the ship's speakers and sharing stories about his childhood. At first, she found human customs baffling. How could anyone enjoy such chaotic melodies or find beauty in imperfection? But slowly, she began to appreciate the simplicity of it all. In return, Lysira taught Elliot about her world, describing the crystalline forests of Luminaris and the way her people communicated through light patterns. One night, she even demonstrated her telepathic abilities, allowing him to glimpse fragments of her memories. The experience left him awestruck and more determined than ever to protect her. As they grew closer, Elliot couldn't ignore the spark of attraction between them. Yet he pushed those feelings aside, knowing there were bigger stakes at play. For now, their focus had to remain on finding answers and surviving the dangers ahead. But as they prepared to enter the Veil of Shadows, where Zinnerak's trail had gone cold, Elliot realized something important. No matter what happened, Lysira had changed him. She'd shown him hope in the face of despair, courage in the shadow of fear. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. The Veil of Shadows was a place of legend, whispered about in hushed tones by spacers and explorers alike. It wasn't just a nebula. It was a graveyard for ships, a labyrinth of rogue asteroids, electromagnetic storms, and gravitational anomalies that could tear even the sturdiest vessel apart. As Elliot and Lysira approached its edge, the starship's sensors began to flicker erratically, warning lights flashing across the cockpit console. This is it, Elliot muttered, gripping the controls tightly. Zinnerak's last known location. Lysira sat beside him, her expression tense but resolute. Be careful, she cautioned. The veil doesn't just hide things, it distorts them. Time, space, perception, everything becomes unreliable here. Elliot nodded, his focus sharp as he guided the ship into the swirling chaos. The view outside transformed into an eerie kaleidoscope of colors, shifting unpredictably as if alive. Static crackled over the comms, and the ship shuddered violently as they navigated through dense asteroid fields. Despite the danger, they pressed on, following faint energy signatures left behind by Zinnerak's vessel. After hours of tense maneuvering, they finally spotted something drifting amid the debris, a derelict ship, its hull battered and scorched. It was unmistakably Zinnerak's. Prepare yourself, Lysira said quietly, sensing Elliot's rising anxiety. Whatever we find inside may not be easy to face. Donning protective suits, they boarded the abandoned craft. The interior was dark and freezing, the air thick with dust and decay. As they moved deeper into the ship, evidence of Zinnerak's final days became clear. Scattered research notes, damaged equipment, and frantic scribbles etched onto walls. But it was the central chamber that held the most chilling discovery. There, suspended in a containment field, floated the celestial prism, a crystalline artifact pulsing with iridescent light. Its beauty was mesmerizing, yet there was something unsettling about it, as though it radiated both creation and destruction simultaneously. Beside the prism lay Zynerak's personal log. Elliot activated it, and his friend's voice filled the room once more, strained and desperate. "The prism, it's too powerful. I can feel it consuming me. If anyone finds this, destroy it. Do not let it fall into the wrong hands, or worse, use it yourselves." Before the recording ended, the ship trembled violently. Alarms blared as red warning lights illuminated the chamber. "We're not alone," Lysura said sharply, her telekinetic senses flaring. Moments later, the sound of cutting tools echoed from outside. The obsidian accord had followed them. Panic surged through Elliot. "We need to get out of here. Now." But Lysura hesitated, staring at the prism. "If we leave it, they'll take it. And if they do..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew the consequences would be catastrophic. Acting quickly, Elliot grabbed a portable containment unit and secured the prism inside. "Let's go," he shouted, grabbing Lysura's hand. They barely made it back to their ship before the Accord breached the derelict vessel. As they launched into the Veil's chaotic depths, enemy fire chased them, forcing Elliot to push the engines to their limit. Asteroids loomed dangerously close, and lightning-like discharges threatened to disable their systems. In the heat of the chase, Lysura unleashed her telekinetic powers, creating barriers that deflected incoming attacks. Her face contorted with effort, sweat beading on her shimmering skin. When one particularly large blast struck their shields, she collapsed into her seat, visibly drained. "We can't keep this up," she gasped. "We need another plan." Elliot glanced at the navigation panel, noticing a narrow gap in the asteroid field ahead. "Hold on tight," he said grimly. With a burst of speed, he steered the ship straight for the opening, narrowly avoiding collision as the Accord's vessels were forced to retreat. Once free of the Veil, they emerged into open space, battered but alive. Exhausted, Lysura turned to Elliot, her eyes filled with gratitude and fear. "You saved us," she whispered. "But now what? What do we do with that asterisk?" She gestured toward the prism, its glow casting an otherworldly light across the cabin. Elliot stared at the artifact, his jaw set. "We find a way to neutralize it, for good." Back aboard their ship, Elliot and Lysura sat in tense silence as they reviewed Zynerak's final logs. The weight of the celestial prism rested heavily between them, its pulsating glow casting eerie shadows across the cabin. Both knew they couldn't keep running forever. The obsidian accord would stop at nothing to reclaim it, and time was running out. Elliot broke the quiet first. "Zynerak said the prism corrupts anyone who tries to use it, but he also mentioned destroying it. Do you think that's even possible?" Lysura hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the containment unit. "The prism isn't just an object. It's a fragment of ancient energy, older than my people or yours. If it can reshape reality, then perhaps it can also be unraveled. But unraveling something so powerful, it would require immense energy and precision. And sacrifice," Elliot added grimly. He glanced at Lysura, his voice softening. "You've been holding back on me, haven't you? About your role in all this." She met his gaze, guilt flickering in her luminous eyes. "I didn't want to involve you further, but yes, I've known about the prism since before I married Zynerak. My family sent me to him because they believed he could lead us to it. They see it as salvation for our dying planet, a way to restore balance to Luminaris." Elliot frowned. "But you don't agree with them?" "No," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Not anymore. Seeing what it did to Zynerak, feeling its pull myself when we retrieved it, I understand now why he wanted it destroyed. Power like that shouldn't exist, not in the hands of anyone." Her confession hung in the air, heavy with regret. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Elliot leaned forward, determination hardening his features. "If we're going to destroy it, we'll need help and answers. There has to be someone who knows more about the prism than we do." Lysira nodded slowly. "There is one person, an elder from my people, a scholar named Caliph. She was exiled years ago for opposing the prism's pursuit. If anyone understands how to neutralize it, it's her." With their course set for Caliph's refuge on a remote moon, the journey gave them time to reflect. Elliot noticed subtle changes in Lysira. The walls she had built around herself were beginning to crumble. Late one night, as they shared another meal in the cramped galley, she opened up further. "I never chose this life," she confessed, staring into her cup. "From birth, I was groomed to serve my people, to marry strategically, to obey without question. But meeting you, seeing how freely you live, despite everything you faced, it makes me wonder if there's another way." Elliot smiled faintly. "Maybe there is. Maybe we're writing it together." Their bond deepened, but the looming threat of the prism kept them grounded. When they finally reached Caliph's sanctuary, a secluded enclave hidden within jagged cliffs, they found the elder waiting for them. Her presence was commanding, her silver hair flowing like starlight. "You've done well to bring it here," Caliph said, eyeing the prism warily. "But destroying it won't be easy. It will demand a price, one neither of you may be prepared to pay." Elliot and Lysira exchanged glances, resolve burning in their eyes. Whatever the cost, they were ready to face it, together. As Caliph began explaining the ritual needed to dismantle the prism, Elliot realized the true test lay ahead, not just of courage, but of trust. And though fear lingered in his heart, he felt hope looming alongside it. The ritual to destroy the celestial prism was as dangerous as Caliph had warned. Deep within the enclave, beneath a cavern illuminated by glowing crystals, they prepared for what might be their final act. The elder explained that the prism's energy could only be unraveled by channeling its power back into itself, a process requiring immense focus and an anchor to stabilize the reaction. Without someone to hold the balance, the entire area would collapse into chaos. "I'll do it," Lysira volunteered immediately, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I'm the strongest link here. My abilities can handle the strain." "No," Elliot countered firmly. "You've already risked too much. Let me take the anchor role." "You don't understand what you're asking," Caliph interjected, her tone sharp. "The anchor will bear the full force of the prism's instability. It could cost you your life." Elliot met Lysira's gaze, his expression unwavering. "And if I don't, it could cost everyone their lives. That's not a choice I'm willing to make." Reluctantly, Lysira agreed, but she refused to let him face the danger alone. Together, they positioned themselves around the prism, which now floated suspended in a containment field at the center of the cavern. Caliph initiated the ritual, chanting words in an ancient tongue while waves of energy rippled outward, shaking the very ground beneath them. As the prism began destabilizing, its light grew blinding, filling the cavern with searing brightness. Elliot clenched his fists, focusing every ounce of his determination on holding the anchor point. Pain surged through him as the prism's raw power coursed through his body, threatening to overwhelm him. Beside him, Lysira poured her telekinetic strength into stabilizing the reaction, her skin glowing brighter than ever before. "It's working," Caliph shouted over the roar of energy. "Keep going." But the effort took its toll. Lysira stumbled, her legs buckling under the strain. Sensing her falter, Elliot made a split-second decision. Summoning every bit of courage he had left, he pushed himself beyond his limits, drawing the bulk of the prism's fury toward himself. "Lysira, get back," he yelled, his voice cracking with pain. Tears streamed down her face as she obeyed, retreating just far enough to avoid being consumed by the backlash. With one final surge of energy, the prism imploded, collapsing inward until nothing remained but silence. The cavern fell dark, save for the faint glow of the crystals overhead. For a moment, everything was still. Then, slowly, Elliot slumped to the ground, unconscious but alive, miraculously spared from death by some residual protection Lycera had managed to extend at the last second. She rushed to his side, cradling his head in her hands. "You idiot," she whispered, tears streaming down her shimmering cheeks. "Why did you do that?" When Elliot finally stirred, weak but breathing, Lycera helped him sit up. His vision blurred, but he could see her smiling through her tears. "Did we?" he croaked. "We did," she replied softly. "It's gone. Forever." Calith approached, nodding solemnly. "You've done what no one else dared to attempt. The galaxy owes you both a debt it may never fully repay." In the days that followed, Elliot recovered under Lycera's care. Though battered and exhausted, he felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. With the prism destroyed, the Obsidian Accord lost interest in pursuing them, allowing them to disappear quietly into the stars. Together, they decided to leave Xylora Prime and Luminaris behind, choosing instead to chart their own course across the cosmos. Neither knew where their journey would lead, but they faced it with hope, and each other. As their ship soared into the endless expanse of space, Lycera rested her head on Elliot's shoulder, her hand intertwined with his. For the first time in years, they felt free, not bound by duty or fear, but united by trust and love. And so, their adventure began anew, a testament to the resilience of two unlikely souls who had found purpose, and each other, in the vastness of the universe. The calm after their tense encounter in the vault didn't last long. By the next evening, Elliot was sitting in the mansion's library, poring over Zinnerak's notes on the celestial prism. Lycera had retreated to her quarters, leaving him alone with his thoughts and growing unease. The more he read, the clearer it became that the prism wasn't just a mythical relic. It was real, powerful, and incredibly dangerous. Suddenly, the peaceful silence of the estate shattered. A deafening explosion rocked the mansion, sending shards of glass raining down from shattered windows. Elliot leaped to his feet, heart racing as alarms blared throughout the house. He grabbed a nearby wrench, the only weapon he could find, and rushed toward the source of the chaos. Outside, the gardens were ablaze with laser fire. Mercenaries clad in black armor swarmed the grounds, their weapons trained on the mansion. They moved with precision, clearly professionals sent for one purpose: to seize whatever secrets lay within. Elliot ducked behind a pillar as bolts of energy zipped past him. "Lycera," he shouted, scanning the area. Where was she? She couldn't have been caught off guard, could she? Before panic could take hold, Lycera appeared at the top of the staircase, her shimmering figure glowing brighter than ever. But this time, there was nothing fragile about her. Her eyes burned with intensity as she raised her hands, and to Elliot's astonishment, several mercenaries were lifted into the air by an invisible force. With a flick of her wrist, they were hurled aside like rag dolls. What are you doing?" Elliot stammered, watching in awe as Lycera unleashed wave after wave of telekinetic power. She moved with grace and purpose, dismantling the attackers with ease. "There's no time to explain," she called back, deflecting another volley of shots. "We need to get out of here." More mercenaries poured in, forcing Elliot and Lycera to retreat deeper into the mansion. As they ran, Elliot noticed something peculiar. The strange symbols etched into the walls began to glow brighter, resonating with Lycera's energy. It was as if the house itself was responding to her presence. "Those symbols, they're connected to you, aren't they?" Elliot asked between breaths. Lycera glanced at him briefly but didn't answer. Instead, she led him to the hangar bay, where Zinnerak's sleek starship awaited. It was smaller than the freighters Elliot was used to, built for speed rather than cargo. Without hesitation, Lycera activated the engines while Elliot scrambled aboard. As the ship lifted off, Elliot looked back at the burning estate through the viewport. Smoke billowed into the sky, and the once pristine gardens were reduced to rubble. Whoever those mercenaries worked for, they weren't playing around. Once they were safely in orbit, Elliot turned to Lycera, his mind racing. "Okay, enough secrets," he demanded. "Who were those guys? And why do I feel like we're running from something much bigger than we let on?" Lycera hesitated before speaking. "They're part of a faction known as the Obsidian Accord Asterisk. They'd been hunting the prism for centuries. If they suspect we know its location, they'll stop at nothing." Elliot finished grimly. "Which means staying here isn't safe anymore. We need to figure out what Cynarak found. And fast." For the first time, Lycera looked genuinely vulnerable. "I swore I'd protect his legacy," she admitted softly. "But now, I don't know if I can do this alone." Elliot met her gaze, determination hardening his features. "You're not alone, Lycera. Not anymore." With that, the starship surged forward, leaving Silora Prime and the wreckage of their old lives behind. Ahead of them stretched the vast unknown, filled with danger, mystery, and the promise of answers. Whatever came next, they would face it together.